I think we
Hey,
are. I'm
hey,
gonna.
welcome everybody to Homies Chatting. I'm Jesse Thistle. I'm Métis Cree from northern Saskatchewan, but I'm broadcasting from beautiful Hamilton with this nice springtimey weather. And my partner in crime is DJ Indian.
On in, Bindigan. Magazi Bebayad Nadijna cause, Takaning Nadonjaba, Shaw again Nadodem, Nabising Nishnaabe and Inda. On in, hello, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Really excited to be hanging out again. And for this episode in particular, I've been a big fan of Tim for a while, and yeah, this is gonna be a lot of fun. What's one dope thing that you did this week, Jesse?
One dope thing that I did this week, I lectured my class, and it's a full class, and I had really good participation. People are super interested in learning about Indigenous peoples at York University. And this week we studied stereotypes, and we had you as our guest lecturer. So that's one dope thing I did.
Yeah.
And what about you?
Well, didn't you also win an award?
Oh yeah, in New York City, New York, I won an award. It's like a Hope Award in the Hamptons. They have like a shelter called Maureen's Haven there, and they gave an award, and I collected. I didn't actually go. I just was in my my office here and accepted the award and told my story, and gives those people that work in the shelters down there a little bit of hope, and that's cool, you know.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So like Hope is like a network of shelters in New York?
No, it's Maureen's Haven, and it's a collection of people that help out in Long Island. So I'm not
Oh.
sure. I've never actually been there. And I open. Actually, what's really cool is I open my thank you speech with a thank you to the Montauk people of Long Island.
Mm.
And that kind of like, they don't do that down in the States, and I could see that it was like they were trying to figure out what this guy's doing, you know. And so I'm introducing a little bit of First Nations protocol down there, and trying to get those settlers used to that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's important, I think, for people to hear these sort of things, to hear these names of people that have lived, and to hear these histories, like, yo,
That's right.
people don't know that Manhattan is a Nishnaabemwin word, or know like what it means, It's
I did not know that. Wow.
yeah, yeah, I read that somewhere recently, but yeah,
And what
there's a
did you do
lot,
this week? What did you do this week?
Lots, bro. We had I think we have like something like 30 ducklings that just hatched between like three different like ducks that were sitting on eggs, and there's still another three more that are sitting on eggs. So we have a bunch of like little cute ducklings running around right now. We also tilled up the garden. Like it's twice as big now as it was before. Kind of preparing for the winter and trying to get as much food as we can in. And yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to.
So it's
It's been fun.
twice the size of when I saw it.
Man.
Whoa, that's a lot of work, man. Holy cow!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
well, it was dope. Like we have a neighbor who came with a tractor and just like showed up, waved, tractored everything, and then like drove off. And we just send like an email transfer. So
Are
we
you
don't
gonna
like
do?
still doing
Yeah.
social distancing, and yeah, it was
Yeah.
awesome.
You gonna do any corn this year or anything like that?
Yeah, we're doing a bunch of corn in the back. We're trying to grow the food for our chickens and our ducks that we have.
Yeah.
So corn, sorghum. What else are we doing? Oh, sunflowers, those sort of things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
Jishibe. Yeah. That's So yeah, we got new ducklings. That's what I've been up to.
So you're like a father in a way, a new father in a way, right?
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. Unfortunately, you get to see, the beauty of life, but also some like heinous things of, some ducklings don't make it, and that's just like the sad reality of hatching ducklings. So yeah, it's heavy also, but it's it's cool that you have like these I don't know, something like 30 ducklings right now running around. And they're right now, people are looking for ducks to trade for food and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Well, if in the next winter, if you want to sell some, me and Lucy will take some off your hands for sure.
Yeah, well, we'll just trade for it.
Yeah, for sure. I want to remind everybody, tell everybody that Kim Wheeler, our producer, will be on the comments section. She's in the background, keeping things moving, keeping things popping. And she'll throw up your questions to us to ask our guest at any time. And we're also asking that you guys share the link at Homies Chatting, wherever if you're watching on Periscope, if you're on Facebook, get the word out there so people can watch and listen and be enriched by the teachings that we have and the guests that we bring on. We really, really appreciate that. Do you want me to give my moment in history now, Ian, or?
Yeah, that'd be awesome, bro. That'd be. I love your moments in history.
Okay, today I'm not as comical as I always am. This is a pretty serious date, May 22nd. Okay. On this day in Indigenous history, the Haudenosaunee secured the Haldimand Tract and Tyendinaga on May 22nd, 1784. During the American Revolution, 1775 to 83, the Haudenosaunee lost much of their ancestral territory in Upper New York because they'd sided with the British against U.S. settler invasion of their homelands east of the Ohio Valley, which is what the American Revolution was actually all about. We hear it was about the taxes that the English imposed. It was about the colonies wanting indigenous land. That's what started the American Revolution. Mohawk leader Joseph Brant and the Six Nations Confederacy pressured the British government to provide them with a grant of land in Canada to replace the territory they'd lost during the American War. Brant secured the Grand River in what would become Ontario. On the 22nd of May, Haldimand, that was the governor of Quebec, signed an accord with the Nishnaabe Mississauga chiefs to secure approximately 385,000 hectares of land for 1,180 pounds sterling for the Haudenosaunee, who received a tract of land 10 kilometers deep on either side of the Grand River, beginning at its source to Lake Erie. This area provided the basis of the later Six Nations Reserve. Also on the state, Chief John Desseron, I'm butchering this man's name, I'm sorry, Desseron Tion, led a branch of loyalist Mohawks to land at Tyendinaga in the Bay of Quinte. Do you know how to say that name, Ian, or no? The founding chief at Tyendinaga. The Mohawk were already familiar with the Bay of Quinte area as they've been fighting against the Nishnaabe, who had also hunted and fished in the area since before the Beaver Wars of the late 17th century. And the Mohawks, I know this because I got a lot of this information online, commemorate this very special day on the Sunday nearest to the May 22nd at a church service at the altar of the upturned canoe in Tyendinaga, Ontario. So that's how the Six Nations were displaced. The Haudenosaunee people were displaced from their home by American invaders and pushed north to the great north shore of Lake Ontario. Yeah, pretty heavy stuff, you know. I just wanted
super
to
heavy.
Yeah, remind people like how people were moving historically, and you know, and what the history is behind why people are where they are, you know.
Yeah, no, it's important to know those histories because a lot of people just don't, and that's really frustrating. Apparently, we're having a hard time on Twitter right now. I don't know. They could just see or hear our chatting and can't see us, but that's yeah.
Oh, really?
I don't know what's going on. Man.
Technical difficulties.
Yo, we're just we're just new, you know.
Yeah.
We're just lowly broadcasters from the internet. But I don't. Does it sit here? God.
Oh, it's all good.
But yeah.
It's been fixed, apparently, Kim says.
Okay.
So,
Good to know. Good to know. Yeah. So I want to introduce somebody that I've actually like looked up to for a while. I love the way he writes, and I love the way he quips. It's when he came on Twitter, it was definitely like a big presence was felt. Like all of a sudden a void was filled that you didn't know needed to be filled. And Tim's satire and the dryness of it was just like so up my alley. It was so funny the way the way he made fun of everything
yeah.
indigenous. And a lot of it, what I appreciated about it so much was that, like, it's funny for us. And like, if other people like find it funny too, that's cool. Then like a little more about history and the way things work than most. But like, indigenous people found it funny in a way that like other people would just kind of like scratch their head on.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, when was the first time that you read Walking Eagle or heard about
Me?
the eagle? Yeah.
I think it was like he was putting on something about like a beard contest. It was a while ago, and like First Nations men were trying to have a growing beard contest, and like the men in my family, apart from my brother Josh, we can't really grow beards that well. We kind of grow these like Fu Manchu kind of things, and so
Yeah.
I really related with that.
Oh my God, 100%. And there was this one moment in time with Twitter in the early 2010s where there was a hashtag that was called Nativer than you, and it was hilarious. And it was hilarious like only for Native people. And yeah, like it felt like Tim when Tim jumped in, it felt like that hashtag, but like all these headlines and all these funny jokes, and it felt like that again. But yeah, Tim 3 years ago was a journalist at CBC, and he stood up and he said in a low voice, "I quit." And then he launched Walking Eagle News, and we've been laughing ever since. Did you get the joke right away, even with the name Walking Eagle?
Yeah, because I had been to like a sacred fire, and there was a guy, an elder there that said that joke. Walking
Yeah,
Eagle. He said the guy who's most full of shit around the fire. You call him Walking Eagle for the day.
because they're so full of shit they can't fly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just yeah, I'm really excited to bring him in, and maybe we could bring him in right now. On in.
On in.
Hello.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good.
Very good, man. How are you? How are things?
It's good. It's crazy. Everything is crazy right now. It's nuts.
Right?
Yeah. Where are you broadcasting from? Are you in Winnipeg or?
No, I'm in Toronto now. We've been in Toronto for about a year.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And we're just preparing to go back to the prairies, though. So I'm excited about that. Although actually, I actually really like Toronto this time around. This is my second time living here, and I really like it now. The first time that I lived in Toronto, I hated it.
When was that?
That was 6 years ago.
Okay.
And I don't know what it was. It just wasn't my town then. But this time around now, I really, really like it. Even with all of the stuff that's going on right now, I still because I can still see it. I still go. I go out. I mean, I'm cautious, but like I can still go and look around the city and stuff like that. So.
Are you right downtown, or are you like on the east end, west end?
Sort of. We're central. We're up by sort of by Casa Loma.
Oh, okay,
so
okay.
By the castle. So pretty much like almost right in the center of Toronto.
Yeah, it's a nice area out there, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and like I said, I like Toronto. It's nice. It's nice this time around. But I am excited to get back to be on the land again and know the land that I'm on and stuff like that. And that's going to be.
Yeah.
Are you moving back home, like Saugeen?
No, I haven't lived there since I was a kid. I grew up sort of like on the east side of Lake Winnipeg, so just north of Saugeen. Like I lived in Saugeen for a while when we were kids, but I grew up more north of there, a place called Hull Water. another community called Manigatagan because my mom was a teacher there. So when I talk about home, that's usually what I'm talking about. But I'm not moving back there. We're just moving back to Winnipeg. But I want to be like you, man. I'd like to have my dream is to live outside of the city somewhere.
Yeah.
Have walking Eagle Manor. that'll be my fortified compound.
It's the move. I gotta say it's something that I didn't know I wanted, and I can't be more excited that it's here. I tell this story often, but my wife kind of she bought it while I was on tour.
Yeah,
she was just like, yeah, she was like, I want a farm. Yeah, she was like, I want a farm in the country, and I was like, I don't want to live in the country. I want to live in the city. And she's like, well, you're gone eight months of the year, so it's not really up to you. And you're in cities those 8 months anyways. So I was like, you're right. And then she sent me the papers. I had to get it signed at a rotary in like Arizona at 10 before hitting the road. It was such a headache. But post COVID, like I can't tell you how excited I am to have this. Yeah.
Like we're looking for something like now just to have something outside of the city so that when shit hits the fan, we can skedaddle.
Oh yeah, when I went to Ian's, like it just on eggs alone, he would be good. Like you have like 50 birds, right? You're good.
Yeah,
now you got all the food,
up.
you know.
And what's crazy is like those eggs don't last forever, so I have to share them because I can't eat them all. And that's wealth. That's the Indigenous measurement of wealth, right? And understanding that.
Yeah, enough to share. Yeah, I want to go. Yeah. I miss hunting. That's the other thing I miss. Like I could probably go here somewhere. I could find somewhere, but it's just not the same. Like it's not. This isn't my territory. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't feel the same, and I wouldn't feel good going out and doing that. Just because I don't know. Like I said, I mean, I could probably find somebody to take me out, but when I go back to Manitoba, I know exactly where to go and I know who to go with. And stuff like that. So I miss that.
Are you Cree or a Nishnaabe or Métis or
Nishnaabe?
Oh, okay.
My dad is from Sagin, and my mom is from a community in Saskatchewan called Cowsis. So they were both Ojibwe.
Okay.
And, but I grew up in Manitoba, and then kind of traveled around a bit.
What do you hunt out there? Like deer?
Moose, deer. Yeah.
Okay.
I you know what? Like I'll go for a big hunt like that maybe once or twice a year with my brother. But then when I go out alone, I'll just take a 22 and go look for bits and things like that. Like when I do that, it's just to get out on the land and just to be out there.
Yeah.
Like that I miss doing. Like the big trips are fun. Like they're nice to go and get out with my brothers and stuff like that. But just that walking around and stuff like that, nice. That's what I really miss. Harvesting.
For
sure.
Yeah. For it's the first time. Like my cousins and my chief is my cousin, which is hilarious. Such a stereotype. But he's like, yo, I'm teaching you how to hunt this year. Like you're coming hunting with me and two of my other cousins. So like just for the community, like yeah,
man.
Just in case again, that sort of. In the winter, like things are going to get really bad and we all kind of are watching it happen. And, it's only a few months, but it feels like, it feels like a very, very long time and slow, but you see it coming and it's a little nerve wracking, but, being Indigenous for the first time, it has all the privileges, right? Where, if the groceries shut down, like, my cousin's got moose right now, like we're good,
Yeah. I'm confident. I mean, that's kind of like that's partly why I want to. That's not the only reason why I want to go back. It was time to move back to Manitoba, but that's definitely on the back of my mind. It's like I know where to get stuff in Manitoba. I know where animals are and things like that. If something happens, at least I'll feel at least a little more prepared than I would here. Because here, like earlier on, like when this first started happening, like the first sort of 2 weeks of the lockdown, like everything was scary, right? You're watching the news. And you're like thinking, this is World War Z. Like I'm like plotting my escape from Toronto. Like how would I get back to Manitoba to make my escape? But now I feel like there's it's not like I'm not being complacent. I know that we're not out of this yet, but at the same time, I kind of feel like I've got at least a bit of a handle on how to like we'll be back in Manitoba, right? So
Yeah, yeah,
that's
because
kind of it. But it's
some of those grocery stores in Toronto were hit hard. Like
oh man, yeah.
they're right cleared out and stuff. Like I've got relatives down there, and they were telling me, out here in Hamilton, we didn't get it as bad as you guys because there's just more
Yeah,
people there, right?
it settled down though. Like even like on Easter, I had to go to the grocery store for something. Like we're following the rules. Like I go out alone for groceries, once a week if I have to, and I'll go alone. And I remember going on Easter, I had to go get something, and it was the first time I'd ever seen a lineup outside the parking lot of a Walmart. And I was like, oh man, and I thought, well, I got to do it, right? Like I hate lining up, but I got to do it. But I mean, I was in like 15 minutes. So it wasn't, it never got as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like there was no need to be, I mean, we weren't one of the people hoarding our swipe, but like we but I saw that in Toronto, you would see people walking down the street, like 3 big packages of toilet paper.
Yeah, so strange that people automatically ran to shit tickets,
Man.
right?
Yo, do you know what we did? We got a bidet.
You're not the only one. And I was actually honestly like the first I've been to Europe and I didn't know what to do with this fucking thing. And then now I'm when we go back to Manitoba, I'm thinking, should I get one? Because then I don't want to go. I don't want to worry about it. But it's I don't know. Like it's weird. It's weird writing. I haven't written as much on Walking Eagle since all of this happened, just because a lot of the stuff that I talked about before was politics, and there's not a lot of that. Like it's still happening, but not enough. It's not on people's sort of front of mind. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
And a lot of what I do just sort of reflects what people are talking about. Some of it's just stupidity. Like I do a bunch of stuff about res dogs. I do stuff about Indian affairs glasses. I do stuff about, these sort of like things that we know about and that we joke about. But It's been weird, man. It's been tough, and it's not that I'm not into it. It's just I don't know what it is. It's not that I'm not happy or that I'm not thinking things are funny. I'm just not. I'm having a hard time getting it out there. I'm really active on Twitter on Walking Eagle. Just so that people know that it's still around, but the actual articles themselves are not. They're not coming out. They're not flying out the way they used to. I remember, like when I first started, man, I could write 3-4 articles a day, like no problem. Like there was just so much crap that I wanted to get off my chest. But now it leveled out.
Is it like a writer's block?
Maybe.
Would you describe it as that?
No, it's almost like maybe I'm running out of ideas. And part of it is because the news cycle is so different right now, and I don't want to just always be joking about COVID-19, right? Like, and that's so it's funny that the problems that I'm having are the same problems that real journalists are having, which is basically like everything is COVID-19 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And people are still trying to do news that's not COVID-19, but that's like how do you do that right now? Right. And so that's kind of the same challenge that I'm happening right now. And so I don't think it's so much that I'm tired of walking, although it's like I'm going to start doing some kind of audio version of it. It's coming up soon.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, that I call World Report, right? So, and that's sort of like that's going to sort of refresh my interest in it. And it's a way too of like recycling some of those old stories that I really, really still like. There's a bunch of them that I still love and I still share. Like there's one of my favorites is the beating session turns deadly, and then it's just, but it's like because that's that's language that media uses, right? Like a barbecue turned deadly. But in our case, like I said, like this beating session turned just right deadly. And it just came out, and so like because some of them, like I write them in like 5 minutes because it's just like it's so easy to make that joke, and that's one. But that one, I'd love to do it as like an actual like you're actually listening to a news story on CBC, right? So interviews with people and stuff like that. So I just got to get some actors together to make that, voice actors to make that happen.
That's gonna be really, really funny.
I hope so, man.
That's
Yeah,
gonna be a hit. That'll go huge, I'm sure.
I hope so. It's because I got to do something new. Like it's like articles are fine and the Twitter is fine and stuff like that. And I'm the only one that does it. Like I haven't hired anybody to do anything. But
Do you ever take any submissions or anything?
I have one guy that's written for me who doesn't want to be named, and that's it. I've had like, I feel bad. Like I've had dozens of people either approach me or actually submit articles that my thing is like, I want to be able to pay them.
Right.
And I think it's fair to pay them, even though they've told me like, no, I just want to do it. But the other thing is like, I don't do bylines on the site. So, it just didn't feel right. So, and some of them were like really funny. Like there were some really, really good things that I would have. But that's the other part of it too. Is like it's, and I'm not being conceited or whatever. There's a particular brand of humor on there that I like and that I write and that I don't think other people could necessarily replicate, or I would feel funny having to edit stories so that they fit my brand of humor.
I was gonna say, like you do have like a very, very specific brand of humor that you know nobody else is really writing like, and like it would be hard to be on brand for other people to write like you do, because of your background, right? Like you have a journalistic background, so it's a very like journalistic headlines
that's
that are
what
like
it is, man, and that's what it is. Like that was like I was making those jokes and writing them that way when I was still a reporter to do for myself, to make myself laugh. I would like write, like we would do training and then they would ask us, okay, so just make up something and write, and this is how you write it, right? Because all it was they were getting us to get the format right. And if you look at the format of a lot of the stories, almost all of the stories on Walking Eagle News, I write them the exact same way that I would write them when I was at CBC. Like the structure, format, the way the headlines are written, everything is exactly. And I still watch real life media to see how, because headlines evolve, right? Like the language of headlines evolve. Like this whole thing, everybody's laughing
trends,
about.
Right?
Yeah, there's trends in the way that, and the language changes to adapt to that. And Walking Eagle does the exact same thing. So it's just basically keeping up to date with the language of real life journalists. And that's why I think too, it's unique, because it's actually written very much the same way real news articles are written. Like the Onion doesn't, they kind of do that, but I guess they replicate American newspapers, and the Beaverton does it. The Beaverton writes in a style that's more like the American style, whereas mine is exactly like, they're much shorter though. That's the only difference, is that I don't do a lot of very long stories. Mostly that's me still being spiteful over CBC, because there was always a tendency for you to want to write more, and I'd be like, no, this is good enough, but no, they'd want more and more and more. So now that I'm not working for anybody but me, I just like, nope, it's 5 sentences and that's the story. So
it's perfect though. Like it's like, you know, in times of scrolling through Twitter, like your headline catches you and you laugh and you open it up and then you laugh a little more and then you just keep scrolling. And it's brilliant. Like it's honestly like it's brilliant. And it was definitely something that as Indigenous people, like, yo, we're funny and we love to laugh. Like all of us have our own humor, all of us do our own thing. And I remember like seeing you and reading like Walking Eagle reminded me a lot of like the first time I saw Ryan McMahon doing Clarence Two Toes. Right. And it was like, yo, what is this? Like it blew me away. Like it was so funny. And it was funny in a way that was only for Native people. Like I remember there was one joke that had to do with farting in farting in a sweat lodge. And he's like, and you get that steamy cedar fart. And he was like talking, you know, but you have to know that there's cedar on the ground. Like you had to have been in a sweat lodge to know that joke, right? Yeah. So it was funny for us, and it was funny in a way that wasn't making fun of us. So it was like, and then I saw that he was just like this like guy that was my age with like, you know, crooked Toronto hats too, and I was like, yo, it was very enlightening, and it was like, yeah, this needs to be around. And your comedy, man, like it hits in a way that dare I say the absurdity of Kids in the Hall.
Oh man.
You know what right? Like, was that intentional? Am I missing the mark?
That's a huge inspiration on me. I mean, it was like a lot of their stuff was deadpan too. Like, it was just sort of like they never addressed how absurd the things that they were seeing were, right? Like, nobody was shocked by something being like, one of my favorite sketches, and this is really bad. One of my favorite sketches was when Bruce McCullough apologizes for causing all that cancer. And he's just like some guy that they bring in, and apparently like he caused cancer. And then he has to stand on a stage, and they like force him out to say it. I'm sorry I caused all that cancer. Like, he's like a little kid who caused cancer. And I just thought, like, it was so absurd. And that's like, that is sort of what I try and channel with. And it works really well with journalism because it's so straightforward, right? Like, you're telling it like an actual news story. If you're talking about something like that was like part of that too, was like my brothers used to watch, especially my brother Monty. He used to watch like the news. He'd watch CBC or CTV when we only had like 2 channels when we were kids on the res. And we'd be watching the news, and he would repeat it in the exact same voice, but he would talk like he was on a res somewhere, and he was reporting on just everyday things. And that to me was like the funniest thing. And then just the way he would like deliver it after, like, Tim Fontaine, CBC News, Duck Bay, you know. And he was like, he'd be in some community somewhere, and that was like, we would just crack up about that all the time. And that's still like, and that's partly too what like I want to do, like some kind of Walking Eagle beyond just articles, right? Like, have actually actors pretending to be reporters. But so look really like the real way that they're doing it, right?
Almost like the Beavertons doing, right, with their online.
But in their case, like a lot of them, the thing about them is they're sort of, and same thing with 22 Minutes is, and a lot of people do this for whatever reason, is there's kind of a wink to it, like they're pretending. They want you to know that they're pretending that they're not reporters. Whereas with me, what I find funny is when it's actually delivered as if you are a reporter. Like there's no, that, like the Onion News Network in the States, like there's no, if you watch that and you didn't know that it was the Onion, you would have no idea. It's done so much like a real news story, right? Like that's I still think that that's really funny, and I still think there's a place for that. And I don't like I said, I haven't seen anything Indigenous like that, so I'd love to be able to do it, right? So
yeah, is that would you say that's why you do this kind of like, why do you do Walking Eagle News? Like,
I don't know anymore. It's just because I still find it funny. Like there's still things. It's my automatic reaction, my knee-jerk reaction when I see a news story now, or I see something that bugs me. A lot of it is really reactionary. Like I get pissed off because I'll see a news story, and then what I'll do is basically a lot of what the stories do is they interpret that situation in a way that makes sense to me. This is how that story feels to me as an Indigenous person. Mm-hmm. And that's like yesterday I saw a thing, and there's some smiling white guy there saying, we want to drink booze in parks now because of COVID-19. And my reaction on Walking Eagle was cities move to decriminalize more things now that white people want to do them. Yeah. Because you think about it, like Indigenous people were criminalized for stuff like that since forever. But now that white people want to do them, it's suddenly wholesome and hey, yeah, let's do that, man. Sure, why not, right? So stuff like that. So that like stuff like that, like that's why I still do it, because it's still an outlet for me. It still makes me not so miserable at the end of the day because I can say something. Because a lot of it was when I was a reporter. You can't give your opinion on things, but this is me now being able to say how I really feel about it in a weird sort of way, right? Like that is how, when I read it, like that's often I'm just interpreting the news and saying this is how it feels for me, and people agree, right? So
yeah, you had one the other day. It's like our something about like our rich white guys are better than yours or something, and you
Yeah,
said
yeah,
politics underneath. I'm like,
yeah.
I've thought that so many times, but like you articulated it perfectly. I'm like, that's it,
And that
man.
was
Like,
what I did. Yeah, well, that was what I did on my person. But that's what it is too. Like a lot of it is just sort of like this is how this feels. This is how this looks. No
yeah,
matter how real media and I'm not crapping on real media, but how media or just society, not our society interprets the world is so bizarre. Like it's so convoluted, and yet this is really how it looks, right? Like this is really how it is. Like that thing about rich people. Like my rich guy is better than your rich guy. Like that's politics, man. Like that's it right there. Because there's no. I think the day of some. I hate to say like regular person becoming a politician, but that those days are largely gone now because of the way the political system is set up. So
yeah. I don't want to like sound cliche. It's almost like you're a philosopher trickster, where you can get away with saying these kind of things, right?
well, yeah, I guess. I mean
Right.
that's kind of part. I mean,
That's a good analogy.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna get tired. I'll get tired of that eventually. Like I've gone through periods even in the past like year and a half where I'm just sort of like I'm tired of it. Like I don't want to. And I'm trying to I've been doing this shift on my own personal, and I think I saw you, Jesse, talk about that too, where you said like it's you, maybe it wasn't you, but you you just try to be a little more positive on social
Oh
media. And
yeah, it
that's
is
not,
me. Yeah,
yeah,
I came to the point where I was just getting too many trolls because there's a lot of people that don't like successful
yeah,
Indigenous people, and so when I put something negative out, I just get attacked, and I'm just like, it's not worth it anymore. I'm just going to be positive and try to
yeah,
make people laugh, right?
yeah. Part of it was like, there's that. I have actually been really, really blessed in my social media time in that I have not had a lot of trolls
Really,
for whatever reason.
I'm
Part of,
really I'm taken
you
aback.
you you fight them, man. Like you,
I know. It's
I see
all
it.
day.
Like for years, I've seen you combat trolls, and I'm like, why the fuck do you do that? Why would you? Like it's obviously amusing, but at the same time, it's like I couldn't be bothered. But yeah, I've been. And when I do with trolls, I tend to make like, especially on Walking Eagle, I tend to make fun of them, right? And some of them are
Mm.
not. I don't think they're meaning to be trolls. I think it's just like really well-meaning liberals, right? Because I go
Mm.
really hard on the liberals on my site, and you get people who cannot believe that I would talk ill of Trudeau and the liberals, and so I just
Mm.
kind of like I tend to include them in my sort of joking, like I make fun of them, and
Yeah, the old like,
yeah,
what would you rather have, Harper? And like that's
exactly, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
I that argument, and it's sort of like, and then for a while that was getting to me, so I suppose that like I don't get the trolls you would think that you would get. I don't get the right wingers. I get the left wingers who are
Right.
who are mad at me, and in that case, like I have no time to educate them. I have no or inclination to anything. I just I'm really loving the mute button these days.
Well,
Mm.
It's an incredible function.
it's probably because you're critiquing their benevolent racism that they're
Mm-hmm.
not blatant about, right? And
Yeah,
they,
well, that's what it is. I mean, there's still people out there that believe that we live in a largely perfect country.
oh yeah, yeah.
Mm. That's
Yeah,
that's really funny. There's some good comments going on. Tim, I don't know if you can see there's a comments
I
button.
can. I
Yeah,
am
so you
looking at
can
it now.
feel free to interact. But this is a good one here where Vanessa, who's a longtime watcher, she's really dope. White people coined the term day drinking to
Yes.
legitimize a lifestyle, right? And do you
Yeah.
remember Wab Canoe had that seventh fire or eighth
Yeah.
fire, seventh fire? And
I can't remember what it was. Yeah.
yeah, but he talked about like how it's so disgraceful for native people to drink in the city outside where like white people drink at a at
Yeah.
a huge festival on and fall down, and that's
Yeah.
okay. But
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
it was,
the socially acceptable the social acceptance of one people's drinking compared to the other. Like yeah,
yeah,
the day drunk thing is like white moms can get day drunk on wine during the day, and it's absolutely fine and cute even.
Yeah,
Yeah.
If an indigenous person,
cups.
yeah, but if an indigenous person does that, I remember when I used to drink. I went to Vegas, and I remember the first time I went to Vegas. I was walking around and I saw people drinking, but coming from Canada and just like growing up the way I did, I was like, I bought a beer and I was like hiding it like this, like walking around until I saw like people with margaritas the size of my torso walking by, right? And I was just sort of like, that was so shocking to me. But it just shows you, like, yeah, you know, that's perfectly fine. That's absolutely fine. But there was still part of me that thought, like, I can't. Till the last day, and I was walking around with a bottle of scotch wide open. But I mean, that was that was a different time.
Yeah. Yo, that reminds me of this one story when we were on tour. We were playing this party in DC, in Washington, DC. And it was a really big party. It was called Moombahton Massive. That was put on by like the guy who invented Moombahton. And like Moombahton's that slower beat that we used all the time. That was like boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba, like that era. The guy that kind of like coined that beat had like threw a party, and we were playing this party at this club that was voted like one of the best clubs with the best sound. Rolling Stone said it was like top 10 clubs for the best sound. I was so excited to play this party. The producer's name is Dave Nada, and we went to his mom's house for dinner, and it was Thanksgiving dinner. And we're like, yo, so Dave Nada, he's from South America. So it was like, you know, it was a bunch of brown people. It was dope. But it was also, so it was Thanksgiving. It was Thanksgiving football. Redskins were playing, and I think it was in DC.
Wow.
So we watch this game with the family, and it was different watching this game with a bunch of brown people and eating like, such good food. And then we played this gig. So we played this gig and it was awesome, so much fun. But we stayed in the club, right? And then the club was done, and we went out onto the street, and I don't know, like, okay, so walking out on the street and just seeing so many drunk white people in fucking headdresses and paint, like falling over drunk everywhere because of the football game, wearing Redskin shirts, wearing, like, it was just like this like surreal thing. Like it was everywhere. Like, could you imagine, like, after, like, I think they won too. It was like, it was just all this compounded, like, extra anti-Indigenous things on top of one another. And like, thinking about it now, like, we all like looked at each other, we're like, yo, are you guys seeing this? Like, is this real? Like, it was just so like surreal, But yeah.
Confronting that would be like, I remember when the 1491s went on the Daily Show, and they went, and they sent them out to go see football fans. Like, man, that's a level of comedy, of this new kind of comedy that's happening now that I can't do yet. Like, I can, like, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could. I mean, I had a show on APTN called The Laughing Drum, which was actually just a panel show, but I did a lot of stupid sketches. I would go out and do crazy stuff. And they sent me to the AFN election, the last AFN election. And I dressed up like I was going to war. Like, I had
a black, had your hat,
black vest and a helmet and stuff like that. And that's probably the closest I got to that. I did one thing where I was going to search for Perry Belgar, and I was screaming around the AFN, and security was going to probably throw me out until they saw that the camera was following me. But they were like, who is this guy? But yeah, like, that sort of level of commitment to comedy would be nuts.
That's almost like an Andy Kaufman.
Yeah. But I'd love, like, I think we need. That's why, like, I love the 1491s. Like, a lot of their stuff. When you talk about seeing like purely Indigenous niche comedy, like, a lot of the stuff that they do, like the Flapping Medicine Man is still one of my favorite sketches, where, like, it's just so stupid and yet it's so funny. Like, just it's just nonstop, and it goes on probably longer than it should. But that's even why it's even funnier, because it's like, they're just finally, it just ends with them all breaking down, crying, and getting slapped by this medicine and over and over again. Like, like, I don't know, man. I have it on good. Like, I'm working on a TV series right now for CBC. Like, I'm developing a TV series.
Oh, right on.
but I know that there's other people. Like I know for a fact that there's other people working on TV series. So I think the next sort of like 2 or 3 years or whatever it is before things get to air, and some shows are going to be on air before mine, if mine gets to air. The next few years in Canada, there's going to be a lot of Indigenous comedy there, so that's good. It's exciting. And some of them, like I was asked to come and help do some behind the scenes stuff for another TV show that's going to be coming out hopefully in a couple of years, and that one, like it's really funny. Like I know for a fact it's really funny. So I'm excited for that. Like this doing stuff on the web is amazing because you have absolute control over it. Though I think what you guys and what you're doing here, like that's the beautiful thing of it, is just like it's yours. You don't have to answer to any. You don't have to answer to anybody. You don't have to follow any kind of rules. It can be whatever the hell you want it to be.
Yeah,
that's where we're at right now. Yeah.
That's the difference. Like with me for TV, is like the thing I'm writing now is my idea, but at the same time, it has to go through a lot of other people's heads first. It gets to.
Were you approached for that, or did you go seeking like?
Well,
because you have CBC connections, right? Like you were.
I have CBC connections, but what happened was I was on the Beaverton TV show, and I had gone along really well with the production company behind that, which is Pier 21. And when I was still doing the Beaverton, they approached me and said, "Hey, do you want to, you have ideas for your own TV show?" Yeah, sure. So, which I did. Like I had, like it was a dream of mine to do TV or movies. And so that's when that happened. That's kind of how that happened. And so we actually pitched to a couple of different networks, and CBC bit. And so,
oh wow!
But so that's how that. But it's been a long process to get that. I'm writing the first 2 episodes of the series right now. But yeah. Can't say what it's about just yet, but it's about politics. It's about First Nations politics. That's all I'll say.
Don't be too tough on the Métis. Yeah.
I was a little on Walking Eagle.
Here's a good question for Tim. It says, "Hi Tim. I love what you do. I'm one of those guys who'd love to write for you. Do you find satire to be ironically more effective at communicating truth?"
Yes.
That's a great question.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's a way of, like I said, like I feel like when I'm at my best is when I'm interpreting the news or the issue or the politics or whatever it is in a way that makes sense to me. So I think that it sort of says like, this is how, this issue that you're talking about feels to me. So that's absolutely. I feel like it does. Sometimes it does a good job of interpreting the news or of expressing a way of saying like this is what this story feels like. So I think that's why people seem to like it.
Yeah.
I have to agree. Like I know in A Tribe Called Red, the videos that Bear would play when we would play together. People would notice them for the first time through an Indigenous lens because we were showing it to them. Right? Like they were seeing it in A Tribe Called Red show, and now the scene that they've seen a million times in pop culture, they're realizing is like extremely racist.
Yeah.
And they're easier to receive those messages when they're dancing to house than when I'm arguing with them on Twitter. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like that. It's funny how that is. That sometimes if you repackage something or if you repurpose it or you really what it is if you take control of it and you show someone from your perspective, then it tends to make a lot more sense because people like the thing about the Liberals. Like when I do that, when I criticize them in a way, it's turning what they think is benevolent and showing them that it's not really benevolent, right? Like it's this or it's that, right? So I think that's kind of that's where there's some value in it. They may not agree with me, but at least they know that this is how it's perceived. Right? They're not angels when it comes to Indigenous people.
Yeah, and you will cross political boundaries like political correctness too. Like you'll say whatever you feel like, and I respect that, because it's almost like people don't know what to do with you, because you'll say what what you think, right?
It's easy, yeah. Well, it's easy, like that much is easy to do, and that was something that I was starting to do towards the end of my journalism career, because I was so tired of it. Like I just want to be able to say. I kept constantly pushing the boundaries of what I could get away with saying on Twitter, especially on Twitter. And then, when it came time to do this, and it just sort of, I was able to just let loose. That's the thing. I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
You ever been put in Twitter jail or for crossing the line?
No. And it's funny. Like I was on last year, I was on a panel with like the Canadian head of Twitter and the Canadian head of Facebook. We were doing a panel on fake news or something like that, and so they asked me to come on and talk about satire. And so I was with this person, this guy the woman who's in charge of Twitter in Canada. And I asked her, I said, like, why have I not, why have I not been flagged as false news or whatever? And she said that they understand, or at least they try and have an understanding of what satire is. So they so it's protected by that I guess by the fact that it's clearly flagged somewhere, I think in Twitter as satire, and so I can get away with it. I'm assuming that's what it is, because that's basically the impression I got. I mean, it's the same thing like with the Onion, like, because the Onion, man, they go in directions that I couldn't imagine going. Just some of the things that they. And not even political stuff. It's just sort of like some of their stuff is just so beyond any sort of limit of sanity, right? Like they did something about it. Anyways, it's just like some of it is just so dark. So yeah, but I think that's why I'm protected. I don't know, because I was worried about that too on Facebook, because a lot of you can flag stuff as fake news now. But I think what happens is somewhere there again. I think somewhere along the line it's been recognized as satire, and then it's protected by that. Right? Like it's not flagged as fake news.
Do you have this is from Vanessa again, future work include a female voice may expand that interpretation? Because Indigenous women are funny.
Yes,
like
they
holy God, just their laugh is funny, is contagious. Like, oh man, yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, no, the TV series I'm writing has the main character.
Oh, right on.
Which is challenging for me to write as a male, but at the same time, it's sort of basically what I write is like in some ways I write the skeleton, and then I bring in other people. At some point, I'm going to bring in other people to sort of flesh out other things. You know what I mean? So that's where that's going to happen. But yeah, one of the main characters is a female. But in terms of Walking Eagle, like when I do get to the point, because I think eventually either I'm going to shut it down completely and just retire it, or I'm going, because I won't want to do it after maybe another year. I think I might just sort of say, well, okay, these are the guidelines for writing for it. Send me what you got, and then I'll publish stuff like that. Because there are a lot of brilliant Indigenous writers and comics out there that I would love to work with.
Then you truly would be the grand editor.
Yeah, the editor and grand chief. Yeah, that was the thing. You know what it is too is I'm I don't want to edit people's work. I did too much of that when I was a reporter. But at the same time, I think if it's comedy, then it's going to be a lot easier, because in that case, I'm not cleaning up their jokes. I think a lot of it is just basically. I think Walking Eagle works the way it does because the format is so much like real news. Maybe that's all that I'll have to do is basically edit it in a way that says like this has to be a little more newsy in order for it to work for the site. Which is really all like the one friend I have they've written I can't remember how many stories for Walking Eagle, and they do it free. It's the only person I let write for free. When they do it, I do some slight tweaking just so that it's in the format that Walking Eagle is. Yeah, it's who knows? I don't know. You never know. That might be.
Would you get a woman to write for you though? Like a woman perspective for like Walking Eagle? to write their own, jingle dress jokes and
and that's the thing, right? Like I think, and some of the like Two-Spirit people too. Like there's a lot of there's Nietzsche humor, which I love, and then there's also these sort of like subgenres of Nietzsche humor that are starting to come out now, like all the stuff about aunties and all of that stuff. Like it's women that are doing that, and they're doing it really, really well, right? So that's like that sort of thing. I'm not comfortable right now writing about it for Walking Eagle. Like I did one thing called the Radical Cookums, which was sort of like this underground group.
Yeah.
But all it is they go around encouraging people to be more like Cookums. Like that's as close as I've got. But I just think like stuff about aunties and more stuff about, and it's not that it's just women that are doing beating and stuff like that. But I mean, there is a culture around that, right? Like around beating culture that I don't want to touch because I'm not that proficient in it, right? Like I'm not fluent in that language, the language that they speak. It's, like they've got lingo and slang,
gossip.
Like that.
You mean
just the way they are. Like the other thing is like I grew up around powwows, but I've been so far removed from it now that some of the jokes that I used to be able to get about powwows and about like hierarchy of drum groups and stuff like that, I don't get it anymore. Like I don't even know if it's still the same anymore, right? So that's another thing. Like I think somebody's got to take on the powwow beat, so to speak.
Fresher perspective.
Yo,
like I think
could you imagine a TMZ like a drama, like a powwow drama? Yo,
that's like a lot of it would be that. But again, that's like there's that, and then there's also just because some of the like for me, some of the funniest things is when you take something that's everyday life, like not that a powwow is everyday life, but you take something like that and you write it as if it's like a foreign correspondent writing. Like that to me is always that's why I love doing Walking Eagle too, because I still love that style of humor. Like it's just taking it and making it, like the thing about the beating session turning deadly. Like that's the exact same. That's right up there with the kind of humor that I like, where it's like you've taken something that's everyday life and you've made it into a news story. And that, to me, I don't know why that is, but I just find it really, really.
Do you have any like favorite stories that you've like the one that pops out the most that you just absolutely love from the past?
Yeah, I mean the number one story that's still my favorite, and it's obviously everybody's favorite, is the one Queen. How are my Indians? Queen asks Trudeau. Indians? Yeah, and that's one, like it's the number one story on Walking Eagle News. And the other thing is that it's the one that's also been copied the most, which has never happened before for Walking Eagle until that story. And then I saw memers using the punchline as like they do memes with that punchline. And that was like, I was almost like angry at first. I was like, you stole my joke. And then I realized that that's how that community operates, is they just basically they repurpose the joke and then they make it and they reinterpret it in different ways and show it in different ways. And it's always funny though. That's the thing, right? So that's why it's always I wasn't offended by it.
So you're almost proud that you're disseminating and people are taking your jokes.
Because that's what is it? Something about flattery and mimicry and flattery and stuff like that. But it's sort of like, why not, man? Because it's, I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat to have done something. Because I was a journalist for a long time, and I never felt that I made the same impact that I have with Walking Eagle that I did with my real journalism career. Like now, I sort of like feel like people know some of the jokes and people.
And they know where it comes from.
Yeah, people tell the jokes from Walking Eagle, and that I really get a kick out of, because it's pretty cool.
That is really cool. Do you know about like Will Rogers and the history of like Will Rogers and satire, and Will Rogers being like one of the most famous Indians of his time, from Oklahoma? He was like Cherokee, I believe. Like he grew up on a res. Yeah, he hosted like the Oscars at some point. And as a satirist. Yeah, he was like America's sweetheart. He was the funniest guy in America, and he was a Cherokee dude.
I had no idea. I didn't know Bob Barker was Nietzsche too. I didn't know that. Like,
yeah,
what? No way.
Yeah, I remember that was like one of the things I used to do when I was at APTN, because we were at one time. APTN has gone through so many. I was a reporter at APTN for years. At APTN, they always have they've reinterpreted themselves in many ways over the years. But I remember at one time when I was there as a young journalist, I always thought like everything has to have an Indigenous twist to it in order for it to get on the news. And so I was constantly looking for stories that involve Indigenous people, and I was like looking, like just desperately searching for anywhere. And that's how I found out that Bob Barker was Indigenous. Not that I was going to do a story about it, but I was like, who's all the Nietzsches out in the world? And then I found this list that said that he grew up in Pine Ridge.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I just Googled it right now.
I don't think he's from there, but he grew up there, and his dad is, I forget from where. But yeah, that always blew me away.
Wow.
Yeah. I liked him too after I learned that.
After I learned that, all of a sudden you're like, I know that guy.
Yo, exactly. Indian on TV.
Indian on
yeah,
TV.
because
Remember when that was a thing though? Like that was like there is a guy in Winnipeg named Jim Compton. And Jim Compton is like one of the early guys that's still living that was in broadcasting in Canada. And like he used to be on, I think it was either CBC or CKY News when I was a kid. He had like long braids and everything. And so for like a kid who saw Jesse from the Beachcombers and Spirit Iron Knife from G.I. Joe is really the only characters on TV, to see a real guy wearing braids on TV, like that was like a huge deal for me. And that's what I mean. Like I remember, like there was always like the first. We grew. I don't know how old you guys are. I'm in my 40s, and for me, I feel like we're still very much in the era of firsts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, she's the first whatever kind of Indigenous doctor, or he's the first this and that. Like, and it's going to be neat when we get to somewhere where there's just. I mean, we're already there. There's so many of us in different trades and arts and all these different things, but I mean, there's still a lot of that feeling of like we're still in this era of firsts, right? But that thing about like pointing at the screen, that was a big thing when I was a kid, man. Like if you would see somebody who was, even if they weren't even from, like it's like how everybody adopted Lou Diamond Phillips, right? Because
that was mine. I was gonna bring that up. Chavez like made I grew my hair, and he threw the knife. Yeah, he was the best. Yeah.
Like I spent a lot of time in Elmwood and Winnipeg when we were kids, and all the native kids when we were playing or whatever, or we were hanging out, we all wanted to be Chavez, man. That was our guy. We were all like,
hell yeah, man.
I was just short of wearing a blanket walking around Elmwood. But that's what I mean. Like he was the coolest guy, man. He had a knife. And I didn't know for the longest time that he's not even.
He's Mexican, right?
Yeah, no, I think he's Filipino or something like that.
Oh, is he? I didn't know.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Anyways, which is cool, but at the same time,
yeah, he's still invited to the cookouts. He's still invited to the fish fries, eh? Yeah.
Well, it's like it was either that or La Bamba. Everybody still Nietzsche's love La Bamba.
Oh, my cousins out west, they're still into that.
Yeah.
It's funny how quickly like Nietzsche's grab onto things, eh? Like that Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
It's the best. And I remember the first meme that was like where it kind of took off. And it was the Mandalorian and with his like gun on his back and the crib with Baby Yoda in it. And it said, me and my Nietzsche uncle going hunting. And that was the first one. It was like, oh, that's really funny. And then like all the Pepsi like jokes started coming out, and like, oh, we like grabbed onto that Baby Yoda really, really quickly.
Man. In a way that made news. Like that was how big it was. There was like all these news stories about how that baby's Nietzsche, man. Everybody's watching it and seeing it. It's like it makes no. I don't know. It still makes no sense other than that people saw that baby and said that baby's a Nietzsche. That's what I love about it. And everybody accepted it all across, like Nietzsche's all across. Like there's beadwork and all kinds of stuff about Baby Yoda, man. That's pretty. I did one thing on Walking about Baby Yoda. About it was basically a thread about the Mandalorian deciding whether he was going to register him, whether he was going to register Baby Yoda and where. It's like, all right.
What community?
He might need medicine at some point. He's gonna need he's gonna need a treaty card.
Yeah, but the treaty money per month is better over here.
Yeah, it's better over there. we only get $5 here. This guy's getting more.
Yeah. That's really funny. That's really funny. Yeah. Satire, I think, is like it's such an important thing that like we've always had. Our stories are so funny. Our stories they're weird. Our stories, you know, there's so much in it. And as I'm learning now, like you know, the more language you learn, you start learning that these stories aren't just like random. They're actual like heavy like data and knowledge in it. But even like, going to like language class, we would laugh, like belly laugh for minutes because like, someone said like pass the bean instead of like pass the beans. And then the elder was like, that's why you're always hungry. And like, just one bean, right? And we couldn't stop laughing. It was like, it's just, I don't know. There's something in this that it's funny, and it's funny in a way that like, it's just not anywhere else. And it's so pure. There's something in this language and there's something in this culture that like when we share, we laugh. Yeah. And maybe I should bring up the word, right? The word of the day for Nishnaabemwin is bape. Bape means to laugh. Bape. And like chibape. Chib means like great. So like chibape is like a big laugh or a great laugh. So bape means to laugh.
Hey, I gotta ask you a question. Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
No, I was just wondering if we're gonna bring a Baby Yoda in, are we gonna bring Jim Morrison in too, or what? Jim Morrison? Yeah, because remember, like in the early '90s when that movie came out, that had like a big effect on me. He was like trying to be this like native shaman, and I started doing acid and stuff to be like Val Kilmer because I thought that was like a way to connect with my, It's just so strange, right?
There's a lot of rock stars that are sort of. I think we claimed them.
Yeah, Jimi Hendrix was another one.
Jimi Hendrix.
But I wonder if you're like the what's his name? The guy that Val Kilmer. Like the Val Kilmer thing is.
Well, he's gone real Nietzsche now.
Well, but he played a Nietzsche in that movie with
Thunderheart,
Graham Greene. Thunderheart. Yeah. He was the Washington Redskin that they called him.
That's right. Man.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, no, there's an article in something. I think it's like the New York Times or something like that about Val Kilmer now. And he's got a ribbon shirt on and everything like that. Like he's gone full Nietzsche, man.
It's more prevalent than Did you know Phil Jackson from the Bulls was like a lot of his teachings that he used to win the championship was Indigenous? It's in that Last Dance movie. Yeah. They talked about it. I'm like, Lucy's like, check it out.
Oh, you got a cat.
Yeah,
I miss my
puppy. Yeah,
I miss my cat. Well, I also think too. Yeah, I don't know. There's something weird about sports and Indigenous people too. Like not just the mascot, but I was thinking that what was that movie with Al Pacino? Any Given Sunday, and they play. I think they play Robbie Robertson in his last. He does this last speech, one of the last scenes of the movie, and they play Robbie Robertson. There's always something about sports and Indigenous folk. I don't know what it is. We love sports for one thing, but I think there's something too in that. There's a reason why they're always using our image for for logo. Sure. You know what I mean? There's something there, and I don't know what it is. I don't think I care enough to find out. But it's there. It's there somewhere. Yeah.
It's a benevolent racism, right? That just
I guess that's what it is.
Everything,
Yeah.
Some mysticism.
Funny how mysticism. Well, the mysticism stems from like just not understanding how well we were connected to the land, right? And like so they would show up with sickness. with like a bad cough, and we'd look around and grab a leaf from a tree and make a tea and give it to them, and their cough would be gone. And then they're like, look how like, magic these people are. It's like, no, we use the like cough medicine tree is like what this is called in our language. We just know how all of this works, right? And like, because we understood something in a way that they didn't, they thought we were magic, but we just understood things that they don't grasp yet.
Yeah, we still kind of get that in a lot of the whole noble savage is still.
Oh yeah. I just thought about that.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, we went on a field trip to Birdtail Park. It's just outside of Winnipeg, and every year the school would go there. And I remember we were all in some trail, and then there was like rabbit track or something like that. The teacher, they were gathered around, and then they all turned and looked at me. It's like that meme. They're just like, Tim, what track is this? I was like 7. I'm like, I knew though. I knew what it was, which even added to the mystique. I was like, that's a rabbit. It looks like it's running this way, but it's actually running that way because of the way. All of this became like kind of, added to that sort of mythical native thing, right? So yeah, it's crazy on that.
Did a fluke go off as you said that, like in the background?
Yeah. That's why when I'm thinking about it now, I'm like, that's how I'm gonna play it back. When they make the movie of my life, they're going to be, you'll hear an eagle in this, which is funny. The other thing too is that's not even an eagle sound. When that sound that you hear in movies where they say it's like a hawk or an eagle, it's not even. I don't know what it is, but eagles sound pretty ugly.
Yeah, they don't. It's not a pretty call.
It's not a pretty call, no. But hawks are actually not too bad, but eagles still.
I think it might be a hawk sound that we hear that plays.
I think it's a hawk. Yes, I think it's the hawk's whistle that they add to the eagle sound whenever they show the eagle. But yeah, eagles, man, they sound like they're screaming or something. It's the same thing with fox. Same thing with foxes. Like foxes always sound like babies crying to me. It's kind of a spooky sound, actually.
Super creepy sound in the bush. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, because I remember like we would hear them outside in the bush when we were kids, and I'm like, oh my god, that sounds awful.
What would walking eagle be in Nishnaabemwin?
I don't know. Somebody told me one time. My uncle told me one time, and I can't remember what it is.
Well, like walking right now would be like Bomo says to walk. Bomo like Bomo sen would be like the one who walks. Or walking right now. And is it a bald eagle or a golden eagle? Because those are different words. Bald eagle?
Yeah, bald eagle.
Okay, so megeze. Ebomo sen megeze is how I think. Actually, my cousin, my auntie, Jane is a language teacher. Shout out Jane Commanda in the chat. If you could help me, if you're here, that'd be dope. But bomo sen is like to walk. So bomo sen, megeze bomo sen would be like eagle who walks. Huh.
Cool. Thank you.
I always heard that. My parents, both my parents were fluent, but we didn't. The older brothers can speak it better than I can. I can understand some of it, but I can't speak it very well. That's always the residential schools, man. They really did a number. But the whole thing about, I'm glad my partner Martha does a lot better at learning the language than I do. I find like it comes back to me in weird ways. I'll remember words and I'll remember certain things. Sometimes I remember words and I can't remember what they mean though. But they just like I can say them really easily, and then I'm like, what the hell does that mean again? I can't remember what that means. But it's a beautiful language, man.
Oh, bro, it's like every word I get, it feels like when you get a note passed to you like in class from an ancestor, and you open it up and it has this like way deep explanation for what this word is. As you like pull it apart, it folds out to have this like really deep, explanation. If you don't understand and you give tobacco, like an elder will know the story for it. And man, like this story, this language and these stories are thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. And like I bring this up all the time, and I'm sorry for bringing it again, Jesse. But the whole idea of like, could you imagine if scientists today had access to like a grandmother who spoke ancient Aramaic,
Yeah.
and understood the nuances and how that language goes together, the way you think in that language. Like, yo, we have that, right? Like we have that. They meet in Sudbury in the back of a Tim Hortons on Wednesdays, and they exchange like medicine talk. Like nobody cares about that though, and that's the most frustrating part, is that like this knowledge isn't seen as like as valuable as ancient Aramaic. Where like, you know, our stories tell us that like, you know, we come from the constellation that's colonially known as Pleiades. We know as Begonagijik, or the hole in the sky, and that's where human beings come from. And I can't wait for colonial sciences to catch up with that. But that's what our stories say. And like there's so much science and there's so much data, and like as I'm learning the language, you're able to like, you know, pull out these like really heavy concepts and yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible.
That's how, like, but there's like levels of language too, though, because I always think of my Kukum on my mom's side was a very powerful medicine woman, really, and a lot of it was like herbs and stuff like that. Like she knew medicines really, really well. But she was like 100 and something when she passed away. Anyways, I remember my dad, who was fluent in Ojibwe from Saugeen, going to talk to her. And it wasn't just the dialectal difference. He said she spoke, like, he called it old Ojibwe. Yeah, like she spoke a kind of Ojibwe that he could understand, but at the same time, the words were deeper. And it's just like, you hear that every now and then when you talk about like how words translate, right? Like how we translate Ojibwe words. Like every now and then I'll hear some translation of a word that you think is simple, but it's actually really like profound, right? Like there's some, I can't remember some of the words right now, but it's like, yeah, the words have just such a different meaning.
Yeah, they're really. Oh, here my auntie answered. Megeze Mose.
Megese Mose.
Yeah, Nipissing dialect is notorious for dropping vowels and dropping little things. Like when you were bringing up the ancient, like the old Ojibwe and that sort of thing, yo man, like I'm reading in these Jesuit diaries, they have these they have these accounts of these medicine men in the 1600s who you know, they're describing this leather tent that would start violently moving, and it's like, you know, it's our shake tent, like they're describing the shake tent, and yeah, it's just like we had all of this heavy connection that I'm learning now, that like it's the first time that I was like, yo, I want that back. This is the colonization took this. Canadian policy took this from me, and like you mentioned, like through very violent policy, right? Like through residential schools, through humiliation, through all of these like really heavy, shitty tactics of colonization to make us feel bad, to remove us from the land so that they could make money off of our labor as capitalists, but also like they get to make money off of the land that they remove us from, right? By removing this language from us. So it's just like, yeah, it's learning this language has been awesome. And also learning like the history and learning these stories, like, you know, it all kind of goes together and explains things in a way that English just, it's not old enough. It doesn't, it can't explain the things the way that our languages can. And like these things, like, you know, these are the Peterborough petroglyphs that are only like a few hours from where you are right now, Tim, in Toronto. Kinomage Wabik, the learning stones or learning minerals. But there's like old stories in all of these that, like, you know, some elders could explain to you. And like that was put there by our ancestors for us, like for me and for you, Jesse. Like this was like thousands of years ago. They thought about us and put that there. That's
they were thinking about Métis people.
Yeah.
No, I got Algonquin. So yeah, we were kind of in Nishnaabe. My father's people were. My grandmother on that side was Algonquin, so that's a dialect, right, of a Nishnaabe, right?
Definitely. I feel like Métis was the idea of what Canadians were supposed to be. This was the relationship that we built. It's a whole culture built on hundreds of years of relationships pre-Confederation. You know what I mean? There is like, I'm just going off of my personal history of Nipissing being contacted in 1617. 1867 is when Confederation happened. So from 1617 to 1867 is 250 years, where Canada is only 150 years old. So we had like 250-year relationship that was based on like mutual trading and mutual beneficial sort of ideas of treaty relationships. I'm not going to say it was all like, wonderful rainbows. Yeah. But it wasn't this oppressive system of, that happened since 1867, right? Since Confederacy. So we don't bring up that history. And the Métis, because we had this relationship with you, they oppressed you the worst. Like they oppressed you like way harsher than they did our ways of life, by giving you like the side of the road, right? Like that history is just bananas.
Well, we went to war and we didn't do too well the second time, so that's what happens, right?
We did really good the first time.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we created a province, and I think we had someone asking us online if we washed our hands today. That's your wife there.
That's my partner. My partner hates it when I touch my mouth.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's a habit of mine because I have this horrible Nietzsche beard on now.
Yeah.
And so I'm always trying to touch it. And so she's like, don't do that. Because I do it on TV. That's the other thing. Like whenever I do television interviews, I'm standing there like this. She's like, don't do that. So I'm telling on her right now. but that's the thing, man. I'm just I'm too relaxed when I'm on TV now, whereas before I used to know how to do the whole television reporter stand in a certain way and stuff like that. Now I'm just like,
yeah, ki gizi ninji na. Yeah, like gizin means to like rub, and like sometimes you have like gizinibi, so like rub with water, and ninji is your hands. So like wash your hands is like rub it with water.
She's from Lac Seul, so that's her. Like it's funny too, like because her dialect is different than mine, and yet we're fairly close. But like, doesn't matter, right? Like same thing. Like Saugeen, where I'm from, and then Hall of Water, which is a half-hour drive away, and even there's like differences. So it always sounded the same to me when I was a kid. Like
that's a testament to how long people have been in the area, right? Like the differences in the languages, like I can.
Same language.
Yeah. Do you want to tell everyone who the guest is for next week, Ian? We got a.
Oh yeah. I think it's Stevie Salas. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Right on. Yeah. Yeah. We got Steve. Oh wait, no. Oh, it's Rena Owen.
Wow.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. We got Rena Owen next week.
That's crazy.
From Once We're Warriors.
I'm actually teaching that film in my class this week, so this is perfect. Yeah. Maybe this will be our lecture for I won't have to record a lecture for this week about this. So this is good.
No, that's
double dipping, man.
She's amazing.
Yeah, for real. Hey Tim, we have these like these chats like this, and like, would you come back and like drop in? Because we want this vibe to be like we're having a dinner type thing. And like when Nietzsche's are having a dinner, it turns into like drink sometime, and then people come in and out and these sort of things. And we want that sort of vibe. So like would you mind like dropping in some other time or doing this again? That'd be brilliant.
Come walking in with a big bannock sandwich.
Yeah, it's fried bologna. Yeah.
Yellow mustard all over my mouth.
Extra mustard, I was about to say, yeah.
Sure, man. I'd love to.
Brilliant.
Awesome.
And thank you so much for hanging out. This was a lot of fun,
man.
Like
thanks.
You're an inspiration. You do a lot of things. Again, like this place of being first, right? And you're that satire that we needed when you got here, and it's really exciting to hear about the projects that you got coming up.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And all like, thank you so much to all the viewers. Miigwech Pasindawak, thank you for listening. And if you can share this post or anything, homies chatting, it would be much appreciated. Yeah. Jesse, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'd say go to @WalkingEagle on Twitter. You're on Facebook as well.
The Eaglist.
The
Eaglist on Twitter.
Eaglist. The Eaglist on Twitter.
Yeah.
Go and follow, tweet, and you'll love it. And Marcy for tuning in today, and thank you for talking with us, Tim. It's been great.
Yeah, shout out Kim Wheeler.
Yeah.
In the background. And yeah, we got. Is it time to announce also that we're going to be working with, how do I say that? What you guys are the writers. Incongruency?
In cahoots.
In cahoots? That's a good one. That's perfect.
That's perfect.
Yeah, so we're going to be working in cahoots with Mukra Creative and Tanya Talaga's production company. Yeah, so we're going to turn this a little more official and get this into like a podcast format. And yeah, really excited to be working with a lot of talented and Indigenous Kwewak. Hey, it's good.
From the talent to the production team to the producers, everything's Indigenous. So it's awesome.
Yeah. Basically everyone except for us, eh, Jesse?
It's just two guys.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Again, like and subscribe, share, all of those things that you do on social media, and tune in next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay. Boma P. Until another time.
Kermit the Frog.